All right, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Let me get these Amanda's slides up and we'll get rocking here. I hope everyone can bear with me through my first meeting here, but we are in week 8 of the WPL and we're going to start off with a check-in. So how's everybody feeling today? Why don't you just go ahead and put in the chat how you're feeling today? Maybe it's for the week too. We got some 8s.
Stop. You got to give us more time to make choices.
Wow, we got a lot of 8s. What is 8? Can we talk about 8? What is it? Surprise? Is
It's
it
in my opinion, it's fat and happy.
fat and happy?
I was gonna say eight is everything.
What is 9? 9's like happy but not fat. That's like jumping. Wow, Lindsay, but the 4. You want to explain, Lindsay, or is that?
Well, I did some yard work this past weekend because I didn't have any WPL to keep me occupied, and I've got poison ivy all over my forearms now.
Ooh.
So I feel like a sheep with a bucket on its head.
Yikes. I'm sorry. Well, hopefully you get better. It's definitely a 4.
It's all right.
All right. We have our shout outs for the week. Jenny, you got a big shout out for helping out on your week off and joining Amelia on the sidelines.
Thanks.
Amelia also called out Beantown for giving excellent video, which is so key. I mean, I don't know how you guys.
Well, the reason that's really remarkable is that game was played in a monsoon.
Yeah, that I watched the game. I watched it. I saw some clips from Instagram, and I was like, ooh. So, and there was a call out for me running, which I'm already failing. So, here are the results for the week. We had a tight match between Beantown and All Blues, which, if I'm not mistaken, this is the top of the table.
Yep.
And then we saw New York run away with the poor Amazons struggling in this game, unfortunately. All right, so we're on Eclipse. Who would like to go first? Do we have any takers here? Anybody want to go first? Amelia, you want to?
Marty, we've only got one clip in there. You want to just knock that out?
Yeah, I'd be happy to chat. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do that. It's yeah, there wasn't. Oh, go ahead. You can give the narrative of the game, Marty, before I start rambling on.
Mm-hmm.
So Tim, if you want to,
Before you go to clips, do you want to throw the game stats up?
Yeah, I think if you go to the report, that'd be awesome. I think we're jealous of the amount. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so we saw just from the scoreline that it was 69-5, New York over the Amazons. And there were a couple of work-ons that I thought went well, a couple work-ons that I thought didn't go well. So that being said, the letting it breathe mentality that we've had throughout the WPL has been a focus of mine, and I think that there were some points where I could have worked a little harder on that. That one, the definition of letting it breathe, and 2, what does letting it breathe mean? So, yeah, no, 69-5 was the final score, and I guess we could hop into the clip that Miles and I decided to.
Miles, do you have any overview, comments about the game or anything you want to share before we dive into the clip?
Yeah, I mean, again, the scoreline kind of tells a story. I don't think there's not a lot to be said, right? These games are good, I think, for work-ons, because you can kind of, it's not a situation where it's going to go down to the wire or anything like that. But yeah, it was one-way traffic. I think Marty did well. Got around the pitch, did the basics well. There was just a couple of he mentioned letting it breathe, right? At tackle, well, at any penalty, right, Marty? Really. But so this one it's kind of related to that, the clip we've got, but it's more just like for calibration, just from the group. Sorry. Oh, So I just got a message that came through. Yeah, what the group thinks about this, because and what standard we should be kind of holding ourselves to.
Yeah, and I'd like to have this conversation about what letting it breathe might be. Open a conversation. And
So how do you want to do this, Marty? You want to play it? Do you want to talk through it? Do you just want to play it once and then talk through the second time?
Yeah, I think that'd be cool if we play it
Okay.
once. Let us all think about it, and then I'll chat through my thought process. Yeah.
All right, sounds good. We'll let it play.
One. Yeah. Oh, gold. Blue.
Was that it?
Yeah, so that's the clip, and I think this clip describes a lot about the game. That if you want to put it into one, I don't know, I guess 25-second clip, we'll talk about. So it's this thing that first off, the Zons apologized to me profusely about their jerseys being the wrong color that they described to me in our pregame conversation. So a New York Rugby Club was blue and the Twin City Amazons were gold. So when you hear me talking in this clip, it's blue and gold, even though they're both wearing white. So that being said, it's white 9 here, or blue 9 wins the turnover. And a pass to me probably would have penalized gold for a ball carrier not releasing. And so we see blue 9 over the ball, and they're in great body position. And that I guess my whole thought process about letting it breathe really took advantage of me here, because blue 9 wins this ball here and then gets tackled by those people that are counter-rucking blue 9. And then another gold defender at that point gets over the ball and wins the ball. So it's this conversation that I think we should all have about letting it breathe versus seeing the first infraction. Is the only real talking point that I want to take away from this match.
Got it. Miles, anything to add on that, or anything you think here, or does anybody else have thoughts?
I mean, it's probably helpful. It's kind of hard with the jerseys, like Marty said. There's players flying in everywhere, but I thought the penalty went the wrong way. I thought 9 did enough to deserve or warrant the penalty, to get the penalty. She's at the beginning. She could textbook kind of body position over the ball. And then, there's obviously situations where tackler over the ball and they get cleaned out. Okay, that's fine, but she doesn't really get cleaned out here. There's just kind of like Amazons kind of make a mess of it, and then they get the penalty. So I don't know, you could argue both ways, but I'm just wondering, how folks see this. If you play it through just one more time in real time so people can see, rather than you can kind of see it, and then it turns into, players coming in, could be from the side or whatever, and it just deteriorates from there.
One. Yeah. Oh, gold. Blue.
And then if nobody has any other thoughts on this, I think if we just look at the tackle versus tackle penalties, blue versus gold, and then ruck versus ruck penalties, blue versus gold, half versus half, will tell a pretty big picture of this story that I had a lot of trouble with in this last match. So, yeah.
Any thoughts from anybody else?
Hey, it's Rosalind. I have a question. So but it looks like 9 wins the ball, right? She has like full possession. So
I think
go ahead.
I think so. Well, it's hard to see.
It is hard to see, but that's what I'm asking. So
I think she does.
But so they didn't prevent her from getting the possession, right?
In the moment, I was under the thought process of I was still letting it breathe, and my definition of letting it breathe is a lot different than what I thought it is, what I think it is now. That being said, I think Blue 9 did an awesome job winning this penalty, and they should have been rewarded for this turnover.
Yeah, unless they prevented her from getting the ball, I don't know why. Like, she got the ball, but then if they want it back, is there a reason we can't just like let it breathe more and then Gold gets it and that's the contest?
I don't think the ball carrier ever released the ball. Excuse me. The ball carrier actually ever released on the ground. I think she was holding onto it. Nine's yanking on it, and the player on the ground is holding onto it.
Because it looked to me like she wins it. That's why I was asking. It looks like she wins it, she has it, and then they compete after that. But then, okay, yeah, if she never actually, they didn't let her have it, then I agree then.
So she was being tackled by Gold while she was still trying to pull the ball from the ball carrier. Is that what
Correct.
you're saying, Miles?
Yeah, because it looks like she kind of has it. So I'm like, oh, well, then she
Yep.
won. Why would she get a penalty? But I see she didn't ever actually have it.
Yeah, and that's the debate, right? It's like, yeah, she's being tackled. You know what? It's razor thin margins here, right? And that's why we brought it in here because I was wondering on, you know, maybe the penalty did go the right way. That's what I'm trying to. Wanted to see if anyone would think that, but again, it's difficult. This kind of players start to lose their feet, and it's like, you know, Marty blows the penalty, but it's like at that point, who knows what's going on in there?
Yeah, Miles, I see the same thing that you do, and that's that she should have won the ball, but the ball carrier is almost hanging from it.
Yep.
As she pulls it.
Yeah, I can't even see
Yeah.
that.
Which made it easier for Amazons to counter ruck and tackle.
Yeah, they're all off.
Right.
They don't have their weight. Yeah, I think also too early in a game, right? You're kind of allowing this big tussle, this big, you know, ruck, counter ruck, and that's going to just later in the game, you're just going to keep seeing this kind of progress on, which you know, is tough. So I don't know. It's hard because you want to let the game breathe, but at the start of the game, you kind of want to set your standard. You don't want to allow the game to, you know, be this ruck, hold on, kind of counter ruck back and forth. That's just my opinion. So,
And I agree. I think it's back to this mentality of what we think of letting it breathe versus shutting an eye to the first infringement, which happened on Saturday across the 80, not just this one clip. So yeah.
Yeah, I think let it breathe is when she makes that first tug, you give it 1 second to see if it comes. And then when she makes that second, you can see her body kind of jerk a second time. That's when you just go ahead and blow it.
yeah, I would have called the penalty right here when it's all kind of stuck in there.
Yep.
And then we go another second, and then it kind of, you know, then now we have a second infringement. So
I also think that just to Tim's point, letting it breathe changes as the game goes along. So letting it breathe earlier, you get a shorter breath, and then letting it breathe towards the end of the game, you have more time to kind of let things develop.
And I'm going to be honest, letting it breathe being part of my game plan this match was a big struggle for me. It was tough to see that, and then you see me go back into my anti letting it breathe mentality in the last 20 or last 40, and yeah, no, it's just still a work on letting it breathe versus the closing your eyes. So yeah.
yeah, it's just a timing thing, a temperature of the game as well. Knowing, you know, at the start you kind of are trying to set a standard, and then setting that standard, and then letting it breathe because you've set that standard, and then quickly reeling it back in if you didn't feel like you set that standard.
Marty, did you feel uncomfortable through the game trying to do that, or at least the first 40 minutes?
Maybe not the first 40, but because I gave a yellow card in the 23rd, 24th minute where New York Rugby Club really opened up the match. But maybe in the first 18 to 25, yeah, I did feel uncomfortable. Yeah.
Just feeling it out. I would like to say that that's when the most growth happens. So I'm proud of you for doing that.
Thank you.
At what point in the game, Marty, did you kind of realize this was one-sided? You know, obviously we see 50 points in the first half. You know, you called that penalty at 11 minutes. Did you still think there was kind of a game on, or when did that, and how does that change about letting it breathe for you?
Yeah, so it's not something that I clipped here, but it's something that I commented in the match. So if you want to go through my comments, or if you're able to see it, I really see the Twin Cities Zongs get really demoralized with the yellow card, and it was a high head contact process yellow card. One that I was confident in the moment.
What time
off
was you give that time?
yeah. So 20 right here, 20.
Right here.
Yeah, 26:59 now. Yeah. So the first comment is what I thought in the moment, and the second comment is what I thought in the day, and the third comment is obviously miles. So
Should we go look at it?
and yeah, we could look at it, and in this moment the score will come up on the clip, and so 26:59. Yeah, and that's where I really start to feel the match get away.
Tim, I think you have to go to the report and go to view.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, you're on the report. Now scroll up. Scroll up. There you go. And then click view playlist.
Ooh.
Yeah. So there could be arguments made here that the score line was already getting away from the zones, but this is the clip where I started to really feel it. And
Regardless of scoreline, you can't ignore the foul play.
I agree with that.
I mean, you might be softer on repeated infringements if the scoreline dictates, but not foul play.
Yeah, and I wasn't nervous about being overly cautious about repeated infringements here. I just saw what I saw in this moment with direct head contact and high speed with no real mitigation. So.
Anything else, Marty or Miles, from the game that you guys want to point out while we're here? Or?
Yeah, Peter just mentioned something that I would also like to. So I put comments in here. So there was a cynical infringement leading up to the goal line, and it was what was the time on that, Marty? Do you remember?
It was early in the second half.
Yeah, and anyway,
yeah.
there hadn't been any kind of pattern or Peter, you mentioned like patterns of
After this
negative play. But what I said, and Marty kind of gave a warning, and it was very cynical. And I basically said, there doesn't always have to be a pattern of infringing to give a yellow card. They had good roll forward ball, and whereas I might have just given a yellow for it. So what's the thoughts on that? Because that's what I would have done, but I don't know if that's necessarily what you want.
Yeah, so it's 78-23 in the clip.
Miles, you're talking about viewing something as cynical all by itself without it being part of a pattern, right?
Correct. Like it's cynical enough where I think so it was a penalty and 10 meters out, and then the player was tackled like 1 meter later, after the quick tap, which to me is, and they were rolling.
Yellow card.
And contextually for this match, it was the team that was ahead or behind.
Correct. That would have been nice to just,
throw them a bone.
I think, Marty was, empathy was kind of a little bit too much empathy, right? Whereas, it's a great point, Amanda, like given the game situation, it might have been, just remove the player and get on with it.
Yeah. Help the Zons walk away feeling a little bit better.
Yeah,
right.
It's an easy decision, I think.
Yeah, and I do want to say that the 70th minute of this clip is different than the 60th minute of the match. I know that the score line's a little out of hand, but I wish my mic was on. The first half, I think the mic was much better than the second half, so it's not even worth trying to listen to the conversation here. But so all I do is bring the captain in with the player here and send the player off.
Yeah, I think the only other thing to mention, since I know we've only got 2 games, we're hogging the call here, Marty, but the penalty count was 26 penalties. Is that right?
I think it was 25. Yeah, 16.
25, but if you look at the skew of those, there's 16 against New York, the dominating team, against 9. God, I got terrible math. Yeah, against 9. So it's just, that was just something that stuck out to me. Like, okay, they're obviously dominating the game, but they're also infringing a lot more. So where was the escalation in that? That's just, it's just a point to think on. Like, that's a lot of penalties for 16 against one team. And they were the clear, the clearly dominating team. So, it's just something to think about when you're reffing, like when they start to add up, and it's there should be no need to repetitively infringe. Anyway,
Yeah,
that's the only other thing I had.
and I agree. I think that I overcompensated for this thought process of quote letting it breathe in the first half, and then I went back to my happy place of what I thought was refereeing, and then I overcompensated the other way and just blew the whistle so much in the last 40. So yeah, it was definitely a learning process, and but yeah.
I mean, I think we all learn, like when and how to change gears, right? When to let the game breathe, when to kind of reel it in, when to kind of be able to adjust to the game, and sometimes just letting the teams play, but sometimes you can't let them play. So cool.
Yeah,
Thanks.
and I agree 100%, Tim. I just want to emphasize that one thought process of not shutting the eye to the first infringement when you're quote letting it breathe, and that's one of the things that I think Miles did an awesome job at in coaching me in our one-on-one peer review. But it's just still you have to own your process, and then just reevaluate the process, not just you just have to own your process. So yeah, thanks all.
Cool. All right, Amelia, how do you want to do this? Let me double check and just see, maybe they popped up for some reason, but
I doubt it. I took notes on the times while Marty was talking, and I was
Okay,
half
great.
listening. So my apologies, Marty.
Well,
No,
why don't you
Um,
give us a synopsis of the game, Amelia? It was an exciting game in some fun weather. So
Yeah. So if you want to share the stats, I'll just give a little overview, and then
Yeah.
maybe Peter can add
pulling
anything
them up
else.
right now.
Okay. So I had Beantown against Berkeley. It was at Harvard, which is great because it's a really nice pitch. Only rugby lines, and artificial turf, which is important because it was raining a ton. My goals for the match, surrounding how to deal with what I expected from the teams, was to allow quick ball and break down turnovers if they wanted them and were able to do them legally, and making sure the tacklers were getting out of the way, and then dealing with upright tackles if they became illegal, which they sort of did toward the end of the match, but I kind of tended to ignore them throughout. And I think that's most of it. Yeah, so the clips will kind of tell a story. We started off with a penalty try to Berkeley, and there were some moments of cynicism versus good sportsmanship, and that's kind of some of the pieces that I would like to talk about.
Did you clip the penalty try?
Yeah.
Oh, cool. I'd love to see it.
So,
Peter, anything to add, Peter?
No, just one of the other goals that Billy had were fairly small and focused. One was to be cognizant that this was probably going to be at a different pace than some of her recent assignments, and not overrun the. Yeah, you're in the right place. Just hit view playlist.
Yep. Yep.
not overrun the tackle, which was, I don't think she focused on that well. And also to be very cognizant of positioning near the goal line so as to see stuff, but not be getting in people's way, which I think she did pretty well on. The foul play thing is something to talk about, but we'll get to that.
Amelia, before you get into it, I do have a question on your mindset. So did you know the game was going to be this rainy and this kind of wet? And like, how did you adjust to that? Because I have issues sometimes where I don't know how to kind of deal with that. I wanted to hear your thoughts before we got into it.
It was drizzly a little bit before the game started, but it was downpouring throughout most of the match. I just treated it as if it was a regular game of rugby, but then when we had, I don't know, 12 scrums by 25 minutes in, I started to play a different scrum advantage. So like one where I normally wouldn't play scrum advantage, I kind of tried to let it play out, and there were maybe a couple of knock-ons that I ignored just to try and get some flow in the match. But that doesn't really seem to help anything anyway. So
Well,
I don't
you
know that
still
that's
managed
good
to have
advice.
30 scrums.
Yes. Despite-
No, let me rephrase that. The teams managed to have 30 scrums. You had nothing to do with that. That was all them. But the scrums were great. Now, if you go back to the stats, Tim, I don't know why you keep leaving the report. Look at the ball out percentage. Superb. Found the problem child and stayed in her pocket the whole game. Pretty much.
That's great having that much ball out with that weather and that scrums, because I've been in games where it's wet, you have that many knock-ons, but you have one team that's dominant in the scrum, and it's just so one-sided and tough to have any continuity.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I refreshed and it's actually here now. So
What?
yeah,
That is magical.
Amanda
Okay,
ran
great.
some magic for us. So where'd you
Yeah,
all-
I think I had a hidden folder and they were all in the hidden folder. So I just changed the access to the folder because I told you I could see them earlier, but I guess none of you could see them.
I could see them.
Amanda was just trying to make it hard.
Ah,
No, maybe that's
Interesting.
admin access.
yeah,
only.
admins could see it.
Okay, cool. So let's start with the penalty try because that's where the excitement is. Number 2. So that time is accurate. So we are 6+ minutes into the match. This must have been after.
This is out, yeah, just after.
I think you clicked on the clip, so it's not going to go further back. Oh, I must have picked the one after it.
Let me try it again. Penalty try here.
No, I
No,
picked
no,
the
no. Go
wrong
back
one.
to the report.
Yeah, what's the time?
Like
6.5
6:45
minutes.
or something. No, that's the second one. Sorry, I just had to put the yellow card in, so I put it in at a later time. That's why. So Gold kicks through, and they want to kick through, obviously, to continue to get it into in goal and touch it down. And the chasing Gold player gets pushed in the back pretty clearly.
Right, and the culprit put her hands up just so that everybody would know who it was.
Anybody have any thoughts? Anything they would do differently? Anything they would change here?
That player definitely took a dive, Amelia. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I mean, she definitely gets hit. I guess my question comes is 15, in the foot race, is it clear and obvious that she would be scoring that? Yeah.
There's no one else there, right?
I guess 15 there because 9's on the ground. So
Yeah. And I think it's just deliberate infringement to prevent a try from being scored. So
yeah, she knew she was in trouble and
Hey,
Yeah, I
Millie,
think it's a great call.
this is Marty. Do you have the score at this time?
0-0.
6 minutes into the game, so pretty
Yeah, I was
early on.
just curious. Yeah. Thank you.
Yep.
All right.
Okay, so then the next one will be the deliberate knock on, which is clip number 1 on that list. Okay, so this is now almost 20 minutes later, and Beantown has the ball. They're going to run up that far sideline, and there's a deliberate knock on there. I'm curious as to what people would call here, or what the optimal decision is.
Right here.
Yeah, play it slow. It's a little more apparent when you run it slow.
Amelia's in a perfect position to see it, running at 45 advantage.
Hey, this is Marty. I don't think there's a clear line break opportunity, especially because I'm going to work their way back midfield. That's just my immediate thought process. I'd be happy to chat.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I agree, Marty. It's on the 10, right? Not the 10, the 40 there. So I think penalties, I think that's your only kind of choice.
I
Unless you
agree.
want to tell them off.
I don't know.
I
I
couldn't
think-
disagree.
Go ahead.
What do
Uh,
you think, Lindsay?
I feel like these opportunities, as they're already making a big line break and there's space right there and they're coming back in, is definitely space to get at least like 5 meters extra or so, and I would consider that a line break.
You know, there's 2 Beantown players coming through there to take that pass. And the only real defender that has an opportunity to make a play on them is the prop.
Yeah, exactly. And she's going to be tackling from behind, so that's, a couple meters.
So Lindsay, what would you suggest in that case?
Are you trying to
Does
see
your
if I
sanction
would say a
change
penalty
because of
try
that
too?
opinion?
I would just say a yellow card.
Okay.
I'm not, it's far enough back and there's enough cover players that I would not feel confident in a penalty try. But with it already being a line break, I think there's definitely opportunity for an even bigger line break.
Yeah, so my initial thought was just that it was a penalty because there were other players there who could have provided coverage or who were providing coverage. But looking back on it, there really isn't anybody within the vicinity who was going to make a tackle on the player who was going to catch that ball. And it's really deliberate. So
You do have the 15 back there. She kind of was hidden, but there's a 15 back there.
but I guess I didn't think penalty try, but I briefly thought yellow card, and then I was like, nah, but watching it back, I think a yellow card could be okay. And I think it would be fair because of the deliberate infringement we had 15 minutes previous against the other team. Now we've got a pretty big deliberate infringement. And this is like one of the first times Beantown actually got going. This is how Gold decides to defend.
Hey, this is Marty. I think what about Gold number 2? Can 2 make that tackle behind that pass?
From behind it, but it'll still be a line break, right? And a line break is supposed to be a yellow card.
Yeah, no, I agree.
No way to catches them. They're running full speed. She's behind. I think you have a 15. I don't know. My perspective is a yellow card affects this game, right? It's it's going to be a tight game. It's 7-0. You take a player off for 10 minutes. But that's just me being on the devil's advocate, saying the other side.
Yeah, I agree with you, Tim. I mean, there's players coming across too. There's a halfback and someone else. I mean, when we talk about line breaks, I think we think like, was there coverage back there, penalty try? I don't think this is a situation where that's necessarily relevant. I mean, when you think about it, when you give the penalty, the team gets to kick it out and throw the ball in, so they are getting an advantage from that. I mean, it's on the 5, so it's a difficult kick, but versus removing a player for 10 minutes for that, it seems like over refereeing. Just my opinion, but I see the argument for sure.
Okay.
Okay. Oops.
The next clip. Let's just go to creeping offside. So this was something that kind of happened throughout the match, and this is just an example of it. So basically, Beantown was often getting to the last foot, but then just kind of getting excited and taking a couple of little steps forward. And so they're actually offside by the time the ball is out. In this case, I don't know that they actually get all the way back. It looks like they don't. But there were always players in that like 2-3 position that are just a little bit in front of the offside line. And I think I could have done the game's a service by getting them back a little bit further.
So what could you have done, Amelia? What do you think? If you could change things now, or, how would you correct that, knowing these players are, standing on the line, offsides, not egregious, but.
If I could get to the inside, basically where I am, but on the right side of the breakdown, then I could possibly push that pillar +1 out.
You like here, where those
Yeah.
hard are, instead of on the weak side?
Yeah, I love that. And then, yeah, hopefully pushing that one player out would push some of those, the number 1 who's kind of in the middle, and then the 5 that you can see on the end there. Hopefully that would help them stay back.
You mean number 5, who is perpetually offside?
Yes, but she was penalized 0 times for it, so I don't blame her.
No, the offside line is what the referee defines.
Exactly, or doesn't define. Okay, so that was just a clip in general. They did generally, when they were all in a line, it's hard to see if they're all in front or not. A couple of times 5 was kind of in front of that line. It was pretty clear, especially from the video, that she was offside. So it would have been nice to have dealt with that at some point.
Yeah, I think when I see these situations where I see teams creeping up, it means that I got to work to get into position in front. So I'm right here. I'm pushing them back. I'm right in their face. I can talk to them. I can manage it. I can kind of manage out of a penalty if needed. So, okay, what else you got?
2 more offside. So we've got, yep, that one's great. So again, Beantown in the red. There was a line break by Gold, and now Beantown is running to get back on side. And you see number 4 there doesn't touch the ball, but runs right in front of the player who's about to catch it. And then the player bobbles it and isn't able to catch it. And I think that's in part due to the impact of the red player offside running in the passing lane.
What did you do in here? Did you play on? Did you give him a penalty? Did you give him a scrum? What?
I believe I played on. I didn't think that the red 4 had an impact on the player catching the ball, but from the video, it's very clear that they do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey, this
that
is-
number
this is
4
Betty.
could have run anywhere.
Or she could have just stopped.
Right.
Hey, this is Jenny. So that is me on the sideline, and I was really trying not to insert myself, but I think I could have helped in this situation. I know Amelia has seen this, but I could have given her a little bit more of a trigger and saying 4 offside, and just given her the confidence, like, oh, okay, like she did impact that. So I think that's a AR help, even though the referee has seen it, just to give that extra confirmation.
I agree. I would have definitely taken that from you.
It's a good AR note, right? Because I mean, as a center referee, you see that, and it's one of those ones you're like, did something happen? And then if you get that AR saying, I saw this, or that confirmation, it's an easy, quick whistle. You're like, yep, it's confirmed. So
Yeah, and this was really early on, so maybe that would have helped clean up some of the other offside. Okay, and then contrast to that, we have the offside, ruck offside made immaterial, number 3. So this is Berkeley player ends up offside because they're in the tackle, and then instead of getting up and running straight through that running line and getting in the way, the player actually waits, and you'll see it's gold 9. Oh, sorry, she doesn't wait. She hits the deck.
yeah, I mean, it takes a pretty savvy player to know that and react that quickly. Most of the time, they kind of stand there and look at you, and then, I mean, if I was at 9, I just passed straight into that person and tried to milk that penalty.
I got to say, I think that was more as much a team thing as it was the individual player, because that was not the only time that Berkeley did,
Something
took
like
real
that.
efforts to stay out of the way when they were in a lazy runner situation.
So I think the takeaway is teams can get out of the way and can be coached to get out of the way. So if they're not doing that, if they are in the way, then they've earned themselves a penalty.
You want to do this quick throw?
Sure.
We have a couple minutes.
So this one, basically both teams had a quick throw during the match that was allowed. And I just wanted to remind everyone what it takes to allow a quick throw. The players seemed confused that the quick throw was allowed because it touched the fence that's like right under that umbrella. They thought that meant the ball was dead and that the quick throw is off, but that doesn't impact whether or not a quick throw can happen.
Amelia, what are the situations that a quick throw can happen, knowing we're coming into 7's season?
If it's not touched and not marked, not a different ball.
And behind the mark.
Yeah, I didn't actually know that. If it bounces off the signage or whatever, you can play off that. I didn't know that. Generally, if it bounced off any fixture, I'd stop it. But just because, if there's a tree, you see the old tree in some of the fields and it bounces off the branch, yeah, but that's interesting to know that that's the law.
That's an unexpected bounce when it comes off a tree. Here you've got a fence that is even and all the way up and down the sideline. And it might be worth mentioning to teams, hey, over there off the fence, still live for a quick ball.
There's no mention of it having to have stayed in the playing enclosure anymore in the law book. So I don't know. If the teams want to play quick, I'm kind of happy for them to do it.
But one other thing on the quick throw, ball goes into touch. The non-throwing team cannot have one person run up and just sort of tap the ball with their hand and say, I touched it, now you can't take it quick. You'll continue to consider the quick throw alive as a possibility.
Yep.
Really, Peter?
Yep.
Where was that clarification?
Oh, we had that discussion several years ago. And
Perspective, I think, is, the team that has rights to the ball should be able to play the ball if they want and not be like stopped by somebody coming over and like, I got it, you can't play it anymore. They should have the rights. If they want to go quick, they should be able to go quick. And that shouldn't, that's my thought process. Probably not technical, but.
It makes
No,
sense. I just had never heard that before.
that was exactly the thought process, Tim.
Well, all right, guys, we made it through. We got here. Amanda, do you want to, or is Amanda? Amanda's gone. Okay.
Oh wait, I have a question. For that scenario with the quick throw, would it be, and somebody's trying to intentionally kill it, would it be fair to penalize that person for killing the opportunity for a quick throw as well?
Try really hard to manage it.
I'd probably manage the first one if they do it again or the team does it again, and you're going to see it a lot in sevens too, right? That's where you see it a lot.
Yeah,
15s is less.
You'll see people run over and try and whack it out of the player's hand.
Right.
When the player's clearly thinking about a quick throw. That's interfering with the ball. That's misconduct while the ball's out of play.
Amanda, do you want to go through the logistics on the end, or should I do it? How's your connection over there?
Are you hearing me okay?
Yep, hearing you good.
Okay. Then I'll try to talk through it. And yeah, so there's only one match next week, and that is Tim's game. And then we will have a meeting next Thursday. After that, we are on break, and I'm going to be making up the new schedule. I believe I have everybody's information now. Coaches, if you can, take a look at your reports, make sure that the ones you did, if you saw 4 referees, make sure that the way you've scored them all makes sense and everything is published, because also over the break, I'm going to start running all the reports that we can run in Advantage, so we can look at which teams have the most penalties and how the referees are tracking with different penalties and competencies and whatnot. So, and then just another reminder, finals are going to be October 14th weekend. So that's it. Thanks, Tim, for running the meeting for me. I really appreciate it. I was doing another meeting for this Iowa U23 thing that I'm at. So I appreciate it.
Of course. I'm going to stop the recording now, though.
Cool. All right. So welcome, everybody. Round 8, part 2. So this is the final game from the weekend, which was split over 2 weekends. Just take a second. This is the check-in for the week. See which one of these resonates with you tonight. Miles is hungry.
Just
Yellow.
you didn't put a kiwi on there, so I had to go with the koala.
Oh, I see. Makes sense. We got lots of 7s, so it should be a fun meeting. Got 2 shout outs this week. Peter Watson for your induction into the U.S. Rugby Foundation Hall of Fame. Congratulations. We're all very proud of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Awesome news. Are you the first referee type person to go into the Hall of Fame? I didn't.
Oh, no. But, Jim Russell, Don Morrison, Ed Todd.
Okay.
Don Reardon, Nixon.
There's 2 names I don't even know. I'll have to go look at the list, check it out. And then Wendy, a shout out to you for your PR7 sideline reporting. It's really exciting to see a referee going in that direction. It's really neat. So congratulations. Results over the last 2 weeks, which makes up round 8. So Life West over Chicago North Shore was this weekend's game, 44-10. And then here's what our standings look like. All Blues on top with 33 points, Beantown close behind with 30. And then we've got the 3 lumped together, 22, 22, 16, and then Chicago and Lausanne's towards the bottom. So shaping up kind of like we thought it would a couple weeks ago. Let's go to advantage, and only one thing today, so it should be kind of quick. Tim, are you on?
I'm here.
Awesome. What you got for us?
So we had a game versus Life West, more of a physical team. And then I hadn't seen Chicago, so I did some scouting. It seemed like Chicago had a strong 10 and a strong back, some blacks. And yeah, it was a good day for rugby. It was nice out. The game itself was good. It was actually more competitive than the scoreline would have said. First half, the Life West number 9 just had 2 individual tries on her own. And so the score was pretty close outside of those kind of, the teams were competing. I felt like I identified some things in the game and was able to work with myself and the ARs to kind of sort them out. And that was one of the kind of themes that I talked to Roz about was, you can deal with things in many different ways. And we talked about the different ways of dealing with them. And, luckily in this game, they responded. But, we also talked about in games that if you do a certain tactic, then it could be could be more frustrating not to deal with it. But I'll let Roz talk about things too.
Yeah, great job from Tim. We did talk about a lot of things, and shout out to Tim for wearing his voice recorder. So we got a lot of really good talking points out of that as well. Just little things, it's not like regular conversation, it's ref conversation. And Tim's got a lot of things he does well. And then there are some things to work on more. Nicely done.
With the recording of the game, so I recorded it, and then at some point, I don't know, maybe 40 minutes into the game, it turned off. It was because I put it in my back pocket, and it must have, clicked or something. So we got most of the game, and then, it adds about an hour to 2 hours, maybe 3 hours, just of compression time and re-syncing all the stuff. So I think it's a valuable information to do it if people haven't done it, but it also takes some additional steps, having to sync the audio and video together, and then having to, put it through Handbrake. So.
Yeah, he did go all the way with it. I mean, I'd be fine with a video and an audio separate, but it worked. And then it got out of sync a little bit, but then I had Advantage open in 2 windows and made it work. So
I give a shout out to Roz for watching the game on 2 different tabs to sync my audio, which came off of the video. So.
Oh, that's a solution I didn't think of. I was watching, and then I would forward a minute or a minute and a half and listen till I found the audio that went with the thing I'm trying to see.
Painful.
Yeah, Rosalind's way might be better. It didn't occur to me.
time points, if anybody wants it, I have little time points written down.
Nice. So is there any story here in the stats that Scrumball out there for Life West? Is kind of interesting at 40% just for that one first half. Just random.
There was a lot of issues at the start with the front row, just starting kind of at angles, and Life West being a bigger team, I wanted to set the standard to make sure they had a good starting point, because they have some really big front rows, and there was just issues with the front rows kind of falling down. And again, it goes back to my management style. Sometimes I tend to try to talk through things and instead of just penalizing, but and that also might be just some statistical error of me just not coding the right things at the right time.
Okay. Yeah. If it's coded right, then this would mean, that Blue had 4 on Blue's put in, they only got the ball out 40% of the time. So that's, would be an interesting statistic if it's accurate. So cool. Okay. Where shall we start?
Well, all of us put in clips, so why don't you tell us, Amanda, if you want me to start, or you want Roz to start, or
Yes.
if you want to go ahead.
You start.
I start. Okay. So this was the first two are ones that Roz and I really talked about. So we'll talk about this first one, and we actually we want to just play it through, and then everyone to kind of put in what they would do there on the.
Yeah, maybe we should do a waterfall. So we'll watch it once or twice, and then we'll just all on the count of 3 put in the chat. Play on, penalty kick, yellow card. Let's see. Is the audio synced for this one or not?
I don't think so.
Not, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was at the quarter that it got off.
Yeah, I'm gonna turn the sound off then because it's confusing to my brain.
Yes, confusing to mine too.
So that's was the tackle in question. We're gonna watch blue 1 here. Does anybody want to see that again? Okay. Then on the count of 3, pop in the chat whether you would play on, penalty kick, yellow card. I don't know. Do we need red card? You can put that in if you think so too. Ready? Get ready. 1, 2, 3. Type. All right. We got penalty kick, penalty kick, penalty kick, penalty kick, PK only, PK, get it out of the game, PK, PK, and 1, 2 play-ons. Okay. So that seems fairly well calibrated because we had all majority of penalty kick, and then, you know, if you're within 1 click, so if we had someone at YC or if we had someone at play on, then we're kind of, I would call us relatively calibrated. Who wants to run us through the thought process? Tim, what happened on the day? You played through this?
I did. I played on through this.
Okay.
I think on review, I would do a penalty kick. Interested to see what others thought, but I can kind of tell everyone my thought process through it. But I'll let others go.
Who wants to talk?
I mean, I went with play on, so I'm kind of interested to hear the penalty, folks, and what the penalty would be for.
The only reason I wrote PK is because I'm always a softie and I would have played on any other day. So I'm trying to be more calibrated.
Hey, this is Jenny. I wrote, I think I logged in under Marty's link. So I'm also, I'm the one that said PK to get it out of the game. And law-wise, I would say horse collar, but this is to me a potential flashpoint. So getting just quick PK, get it out of the game so that it doesn't devolve further was my thought.
Okay.
I think you're in a safe spot. You know, you're on the 40. You're not giving up points. You know, it's relatively early in the game. You set a standard that's, you know, not how we want to be tackling. So I think there's some points there.
Was it on the neck? Was it on the collar, Tim?
No, it was like all jersey.
Yeah, it's a jersey sling style whip tackle.
Yeah, the thing is, I mean, unfortunately, they took mode of play out of the laws and when they rewrote in 18. But you know, they used to say, you know, you can tackle somebody, you can drive them. But it never said you could throw somebody. And I see that as potentially dangerous.
Yeah, it's an interesting situation because this style of tackle is pretty regularly penalized in youth rugby, right? And I think everybody's just okay with it because it seems dangerous, even though it's not clearly covered in law as being a dangerous style tackle. And it doesn't really happen at the international level. So there's no clear guidance of how to handle it. So like I talked to a couple of people today to try and figure out how we should handle it. Here's the thing, the WPL board and match commissioner feel that it's a dangerous style of tackling. And I don't disagree because we know that when the leg whips around, I mean, we've seen other legs get shattered by that whip, right? Most notably Mathieu right now. And then we know the head often contacts the ground when we have that style of tackle. So I guess for now we say we're going to penalize them unless anybody has something brilliant to add or speak to that.
Again, my original question, like what's the penalty for that? We just say dangerous tackle?
Dangerous tackle.
Would you say that you have to control the person to the ground that you're tackling, and therefore a sling tackle would not have less control?
I don't know. I don't think that I would phrase it that way. I mean, I just think it's dangerous because number one, you've got the leg whip that people have to look out for. And number two, the way that the head is likely
Potentially hits the ground.
Yeah.
It's not a tackle. No, tackle involves wrapping the player and taking the player to the ground.
Rosalind, you said you spoke with Mike Kelly today?
I was just going to raise my hand. Yeah, because my first reaction to this was like, holy smokes. But then I am a little more old style reffing. So I phoned a friend. I called Mike Kelly because he's doing a lot of sighting commissioner stuff. And he said there's been a change in the language. It used to say wrap to tackle, but now the word is grasp. So he said, like in law, like sighting wouldn't even care about this. And he said as a referee, it's kind of what you guys just said, actually, which I didn't say anything then, about you just get it out of the game idea, right? Especially if tempers are going to flare or if you're in this kind of situation. Personally, I definitely think that's a penalty kick because her legs leave the air. Like it's not a lifting tackle really, but her legs go kind of past that horizontal and she lands on her shoulder. So I feel like if a lifting tackle does that, why wouldn't this?
Yeah, I toyed with the idea of the feet above the hips too, and wasn't sure I got anywhere. If we knew more people who did youth rugby, maybe they have a clear reason why it's penalized all the time in youth rugby.
Can I just say, like, it looks really dangerous. And like, do we have to wait for the law to say that something like the first one was like, ooh, it's kind of marginal, whatever. But this one looked really dangerous and the same player does it again later. So I feel like.
Yeah, no, we don't have to wait for the law actually, because the WPL agrees it's a dangerous tackle. So we will referee it as a minimum of a penalty kick. Let's look at the other one too that happened in this game, as long as we're on the subject. Is that okay, Tim?
Yeah.
Okay, because I went ahead and pulled that one out too.
A lot harder to see, but same thing.
Oh, you think so? Yeah, there's some bodies that kind of block this one. Everybody see that? She kind of grabs her by the upper body and then throws her to the ground head first, kind of. She lands, I guess, on the side.
Same player, right? I think
Same
so.
tackler.
Yeah.
Yes.
That one feels softer for me.
That one feels like you would play through that?
Yeah, I would play through that. But because it's the same player, I can see why there's a trend starting. But that was a one-time thing. She's just pulling it to the ground. It's just a bad tackle technique, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So Mike, would you then, like, if you saw it, would you say anything to her, or would you just let it go and hope it doesn't happen again?
Yeah, I'd let that go unless she landed on her head, and then I would, then I'd step in. But ultimately, what she's doing, she's throwing her without holding her, so she could just stand up and keep going. I don't think the tackle is complete then. So poor technique.
You're absolutely right about that. That would be an incomplete tackle.
Yeah, a savvy player would just roll with that and just keep running, and then
Mhm.
that basically be break the line. But she kind of goes straight to the ground, and Green gets good ball out of it.
So then would we not consider this one in the same category as the other one? That was kind of my question with tagging this one. Is it the sling by the jersey, or is this not that kind of whip?
And I think they're both uncontrolled, dangerous actions. So, this one benefits the team more than the other one. Even in the other one, Green retains the ball. It's a little bit slower, but I think getting this out of the game, making sure that player understands that they can't tackle like that or take players down, I think is worthwhile.
Okay, I'll make that statement to the teams. And
Hey Amanda, it's
Yep.
Andrew.
Hey, Andrew.
I just want to add one thing as well on this. Thinking back to my game between Life West and the Zons, that's a similar kind of tactic, or if you want to call it that the player was using. To be honest, I think it's just like chalking it up to just laziness on their part, and I can't really think of another area of the game where we really reward players for just pure lazy play like that. And especially when you start throwing around players who are significantly smaller than that prop, that gets dangerous pretty quickly. So I think that WPL is on the right track, and I think we kind of all arrived at that same conclusion that we just need to get this stuff gone. Put the effort in, make an actual tackle, please.
Yeah, she definitely doesn't break down or wrap in any way. So
I mean, there might be something in that's why you see it in youth, because they don't have as good tackling form. They're not, they're taking whatever way to get the player to the ground. And, that's a way to get the player to the ground. Higher levels, you put a shoulder on because you need to.
yeah, it's definitely a way when there's a big size mismatch. So I don't know. We will make a statement against the whip tackle, and then we will monitor it. That's the plan. What else we got?
Number 2, let's see. So this was one of the trends in the game, and I want to see what people thought. So the trend is that the, let's say, not your ABC channel is offsides, but it's the outside backs, or not even outside backs, just that area outside. And you can play it through here, and it kind of shows. But it was really difficult for me to manage it because I was really trying to get, if there's anything wide, like these players, you see them, they're just lazy. And I spent a fair amount of time and work getting those players back. And, and that takes my focus away from, just general management of the tackle. Cause I'm looking up. So you
Hey,
can
why
see,
no penalty?
yeah, and that's a question, right? I could easily penalize him. I didn't.
Yeah.
And that's actually the topic of one of the next ones is, right? Like, am I working too hard here to, try to manage the teams, or should I just penalize them? And I think I missed some opportunities to do that, which, maybe in a better team that's attacking in that channel would be hurt by. But yeah.
Okay. And how hard is your AR is not really helping you out because they're not on this offside line.
Yeah.
And Tim, your positioning there, did you look at that? Like you're very, very, very flat.
Yep.
So there's it's very difficult to judge, right? Being that flat, whereas if you were back a couple of steps, you might have a better view.
Yeah, and I think that's the counterbalance, right? Like I'm up in their face flat because I'm worried about them. So I'm trying to get them back.
Yeah.
But then, the downside of it is I'm out of position. I'm not, I don't have a good of a perspective back. So yeah, I mean, I guess the answer is I should penalize so that I can, you see, I'm like getting up on the line and push them back, but
yeah, I get it. You're physically trying to push them back. I totally get it. for sure.
But then what happens is I keep in that position for more of the game, which is a deficit for me because it fixes a little bit, but I'm still flat because I'm still trying to push them back. So it's kind of like it's counterbalance. So I didn't kind of move on. Yeah, I see Andrew here said just ping them. They've been having problems.
Yeah, they need to learn that when you say something, they need to comply.
Mhm.
You shouldn't have to, walk up and hand manage each individual player.
Yeah.
This one we talked about, like the benefits of penalizing and escalating versus working. And I will say, like in the second half, I don't know if that's the clip you put in, Tim, but like he got some buy-in at one point. So now thinking about what Andrew said, so if this is just something they're not paying attention to, then just like penalize them and yellow card them. But he got some buy-in as well. He got them to sort of cooperate, and second half was so different.
And that's the theme that Roz and I talked about, which I thought was interesting, right? I mean, we all do things a little differently, many ways to skin a cat. And, for me, I tend to kind of manage through things and work hard to kind of get them back on sides where, another tactic is just penalize them, and escalate to a yellow card. And in some games, it works that way. In some games, managing it differently will work better. In this case, I got some buy-in from them. But I certainly know games that I can remember where I've tried to do the same tactic and the players just keep getting off sides, and then I penalize them and yellow card them. But at that point, they're already frustrated. But if I had done it earlier, I would have set a standard and it would have been less frustrating. So it was just kind of an interesting conversation.
I do want to add, nice work early on, offside, standard setting penalty. Nicely done, Tim. He saw clear and obvious and took care of it. So,
and just for everyone to know, Life West is really like that. What their strategy is to launch hard and fast. And so for me, the biggest thing that I want to do is I want them on sides before they launch. And so what I told my ARs is, if you guys see them off sides, I need a clear and obvious one, not a launch, not that the early launch, unless it's totally clear and obvious. And then after I said that, we didn't have this kind of clear and obvious offsides, and then I missed my window to kind of penalize them. So,
had you talked to the ARs before the match? You wanted them on that offside line and actively managing?
I did not tell them that at the start of the game. I did at halftime. I said,
Okay.
These are the issues that I see, and this is where I need help.
Yeah. Okay. Which one next?
Let's go to number 3. This is an interesting one, and then this is the last one for me.
This number 4.
No, number 3.
Okay.
So we can just play it. It's pretty obvious what happens, and I just want to get people's perspective here. So probably want to mute it too. Knock on. In this case, I said, you kicked away your advantage, and I let play go on. So should this have been a knock on, kick, and then just brought it back to the knock on, maybe the easy, obvious one, or do you let them play?
I guess my question is, like you said, kicked away advantage. Like, what advantage did they get? I think that kicker was under tremendous pressure the entire time. Because what's the alternative? A scrum where they would have the other team would have had to be back 5 meters, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't think they got advantage there personally.
Can we go back to the player kicking? See, in this case, for me, she gets it. She could easily just run forward. She didn't need to kick it here.
She had options, but she had not yet gained an advantage from the knock-on.
Yeah.
That fair to play through, but I don't think that the act of kicking gave up the advantage.
I struggle with this one because I go back and forth about if you've kicked the ball and it bounced, there's an equal opportunity for everybody there. I always struggle with these ones. So like if it does a box kick on a knock-on advantage and it hits the ground, I'm automatically calling advantage over. But I guess this is a different situation. She could have given a bigger kick here. They landed in the 22 and Life West picked it up. Would you say still come back to the scrum?
No, that's a completely different scenario where advantage would have been gained.
Yeah. A territorial advantage.
Yeah, especially because she had two chasers who were more or less on side heading down there.
Yeah, and then the downside of this is, time's basically expired. She kicks it away. I play through it, and Life West marches down the field and scores. And so I was, this was definitely something that was a little frustrating to me because I wish I had brought it back to that because, Life West didn't. They earned it, but this was time expired. So, do a scrum, whatever. But yeah.
Yeah. Also, to Rosalind's point, be careful with your language of kicking away advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that's a concept you want to have in your brain.
Well, it's just an old school concept, right? It kind of went away.
Well, I still hear it from referees all the time.
Oh, yeah.
It hasn't gone away.
Okay, good point. So we don't want to use that phrasing anymore, right? We want to make a judgment call on whether advantage was gained or not. So she had time to execute, but probably advantage not gained.
Can we go back to the knock-on?
Yep.
There's something that in my head, maybe I saw like the ball go off her face or off her chest here.
It's an odd
not her
knock-on.
hands.
Yep.
The obvious call is a knock-on, right? But I
Right.
think I do remember something where maybe it wasn't a knock-on, or maybe it's like it was off of her face or her chest.
It looks like it goes from her face to her hand and then off the hand to me, but it's difficult to see. It just goes really far. It goes further than you would think it would, the trajectory, if it had just gone off a hand. See? Interesting one. So what would you do next time? You would bring it back for the scrum?
Yeah, I just bring it back to the scrum. That's the clear and obvious thing, right? That's the easiest one.
I think it's the easier decision to sell.
Yeah. Yep.
Because it is tight. Like if that ball had bounced in a different direction, or if Green had run onto it and retrieved it, or if the kick had been further, it's probably gained. So
Yeah.
it's tight. This one?
That's all I got.
Okay.
That number 4 was exactly what we talked about earlier, over managing, penalizing. So we
Okay.
already discussed that.
So same concept and you don't want to see it. Okay. Rosalind?
So I added the early lift one as well. I see you did it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah,
I
yeah.
did.
And then I don't know. Like I said, at the moment I was multitasking, so I hope I did it. And then I
Okay.
did that
Maybe
one
it went into a different folder. I didn't check other folders.
automatically. I don't know why that one wouldn't. Anyway, but so we can just, yours is there. And then I just at that point, because I just want to make sure that we can look at the 2 tackles to calibrate, but we don't have to as well. It just.
Yeah, we're fine on time. So.
Anyway, do you want to? So this is what WPL wants penalized, right? Because there's contact with the head.
Yep, that's my understanding. Well, maybe it doesn't matter why I struggle with this. Does any referee want to speak to this? Did everybody fall asleep?
Yeah, I'll chat. This is Marty.
Marty.
I think
in the moment, you see the head contact and you want to penalize that, but I don't think that we need to. Like I've had a couple of similar situations in my matches where I've penalized stuff like this, where it's like a dangerous tackle where the player still is making ground, but so it's like that uneasy feeling that I feel when I'm in the situation. So yeah, that's just my 2 cents.
Anybody else?
Lindsay,
I feel this. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ross.
I was going to read Lindsay's comment in the chat because it sounds like she can't talk. She says, I struggle with whether or not this is foul play. Lindsay says in the chat.
That's similar to where I am. Mike, what were you going to say?
I was going to say that the tackle, or the attempted tackle, changes her body position, and the tackle, her attempted tackle is high, so it's always foul play for me.
Right. So the player is always high, but if there's no tackle, is it actually foul play? So that's why I struggle with it being foul play.
Oh, but if you pull someone's hair but don't make a tackle, that's still foul play.
Many would say that, but I might not.
You are notoriously soft, Amanda.
I hear that. I hear that. If it's not a tackle, is it a tackle? That's my thing.
It's an attempted tackle.
Okay. So for
Yeah,
now,
it's almost
we
like the
just-
tackler slips it. I think, yeah, like as a head contact, yes, right. But the mere touching of the head doesn't necessarily warrant a penalty. I think you start penalizing this, and it's like, yeah, it's a very high standard of like any sort of touching or brushing by the neck or head is penalized, and I don't think that's a consistent standard across. Well, maybe it could be for WPL, but across all levels of rugby.
Right. So I think in international rugby, this would probably be play on, but the directive we had from the league is that high contact should be penalized. And we specifically talked about instances like this. And since we're not having egregiously high foul play penalty counts in our games, I guess we just stick with that standard and we penalize this. Anybody massively unhappy with that? Okay. Next one. Rosalind, any intro?
No, it's just kind of the same situation, but you'll see, just watch it.
We played through this one.
So I don't know if people think this is the same or different, but to me, they're like the same because they're both nothing. But
They're both nothing.
I'm trying to calibrate myself.
Okay, I'm on a call, Rosie. Go talk to your father, please.
Yeah, it just gets a little hard, if there's any head contact, what we're calling, and I get that, we're setting a standard, but yeah, it's hard because you want them to be playing kind of rugby and running, and I did play through this one.
So you
think
saw it
it's-
at the time
Yeah.
and chose to play through it.
Mhm. And I think it's an easy call. If 3, misses that, or they do kind of a iffy tackle and they end up on the wrong side, then you have an easier sell on a tackler not rolling or in the way. But in this case, the ball is super clean and it's just, we're going to play through. A player didn't seem to fuss about it, but I do see it devolving, right? If you kind of just let it keep going, there could be a point where
3's not making any effort to lower herself, right?
It also wasn't even onside, which is a whole different issue.
So that's like, is that head contact and that's a penalty?
Could it be an advantage?
But then if it's advantage, then you're saying it's a penalty,
I am actually saying it's a penalty.
right? So I'm trying to really understand, because really to me, they're both play on. Like, that's nothing.
Look,
But-
I'm 100% agreeing with you that like if we go and watch any kind of international rugby, they're going to play through that.
So
But if we watch a lot of oh, sorry, Rosalind, I cut you off.
No, I cut you off. I just want to know what you want. Like, is the second one, is that a penalty too?
To me, the second one looks worse than the first one. So. Okay. And then the early lift. So they put 4 up and then they throw to the front jumper.
Is that illegal?
Well, it is illegal to put your jumper in the air before the ball is thrown in. And I would assume that that law is in the law book specifically because of this situation. I could be wrong. Any thoughts on that, Peter?
Well, I mean, I think there's a timing issue here. I mean, if they had thrown it as four reached the apex and thrown it to the first player, that'd be fine.
But it's clearly a tactic, right?
Right.
Just,
You know, they need to get the timing right. If they didn't do it,
yeah,
you know, they're half a beat slow. And there's time for Chicago to react the wrong way to the lift. So that's early.
So the question is, do we free kick this or do we just tweet and reset it?
Late in the game, has it happened before? Tim?
No, first time.
Any other early issues before?
There was like a semi-early jump, but I told them to go down. They were on defense. And I told them they did an early jump. I told them to get down. They did down. Chicago got the ball and we played on. But no.
Get your timing right and do again.
Okay.
And so that's how I deal with it.
Yeah, I think they get one and then you move to a free kick. So
I agree with that. I think you would look like a dweeb if you just called that right away. I think you have to do it again and then tell them and then free kick.
Yeah, but you tell them, you got to get your timing right.
perfect.
Can we just look at Lindsay's question in the chat?
Yes.
How do we prepare them for international play if they want us to call foul play differently than what they will see at the international level?
Player safety is the league's #1 concern. They want low tackles, and you don't encourage low tackles by allowing head contact by upright players. Okay, so we're just being a little bit stricter than they are internationally, and I think everyone's on the same page with that.
Life needs crouching practice.
Yeah, yeah, they do. Okay, I think that was everything. Anything else, Tim or Rosalind?
No, thanks, Ross, for giving me some feedback. Appreciate it.
Oh, it was great. I had a great time. I learned a lot doing it. Nice work, Tim.
Okay, just miscellaneous stuff to wrap up this beginning of the season. I already told you I'll send a note when the schedule is ready. I haven't really started it, but I'm planning to do it while I'm in Canada over the next little bit of time. Coaches, just a reminder, look back at the reports you've done, make sure you're happy with the scores, the competencies, the reds and yellows you've given the refs, because I'm going to be running reports and it's going to give us, ranking based on scores. So we want those to be as accurate as they can be. The wrap-up email from this call, which is going to cover the last week and this week, it may not be out until Monday, which I think is probably okay since we don't play this weekend. It's already 10 o'clock here and I have to leave at 6 a.m. to take my children to water country. So I am going to prioritize that unless anybody really needs the email tomorrow mornings. If you do, just
Oh, we
text me.
want pictures from water country.
Okay, water country pictures. And then I'm thinking our next call will be Thursday, August the 10th. That is the Thursday prior to the competition, which will start on August 12th. So if everybody's happy, I'm going to stop recording now. Let's see, there we go.